Jevan Snead. Pass is intercepted.
Quarterback Jevan Snead has died at the age of 32. Snead was found overnight by Austin police, but they say...
This was the bone-crushing hit from Markel Martin in the 2010 Cotton Bowl that those close to Jevan Snead said he was never the same afterwards. Jevan Snead was born in San Angelo, Texas, and was about 6 years old when his father first realized his son was a gifted athlete. And as any loving father would do for his son, Jevan Snead would make the trips driving his son across the state of Texas to various sports camps. By the time Jevan was 10, his Little League coaches clocked his arm at 62 miles per hour, indicating the kid had a really strong arm. Yet the youngster was more interested in football, as football meant everything to him. From a young age, his coaches knew there was something very special in Jevan. While in junior high, Jevan played football in Eden, a small town of about 1,200 people. Snead was a local standout and was slowly making a name for himself outside of Eden. So as the patriarch, Jalen knew if his family continued to stay in Eden, opportunities would be limited, and this could in turn stun his son's football growth. He simply knew he had to relocate his family, and that's when they settled on Stephenville, a town of about 15,000, known for its high school football program. And what's more, Jevan's older sister Jenna, who was attending college in Stephenville, was going to be close by. While the two siblings were 5 years apart, they were very close to one another. On the football field, Jevan Snead was as comfortable as he could ever be. Over the course of the next few years, the quarterback would impress as he was making a name for himself as one of the state's best QBs. Interestingly enough, there was another future NFL quarterback around that time who was being pitted against Jevan in the Lone Star State. And on one fateful day in North Texas, Matthew Stafford and Jevan Snead would square off in the 2005 Class 4A Division I state semifinal. Snead's Stephenville Yellow Jackets and Stafford's Highland Park Scots locked horns, ready to battle it out for a spot in the championship. The spectacle drew over 30,000 fans from all over to witness the shootout that was put on display from both teams. But it would be Matthew Stafford who came out victorious in a closely contested matchup as he connected on a 7-yard TD pass with just seconds left in the game to give the Scots a 41-38 win. This was a crushing defeat for Stephenville and Snead as they came so close to knocking off the mighty Highland Park, who went on to take the number 2 ranking in the state that year. Regardless of all his accomplishments and accolades, Jevan Snead would walk off the field that day as just another quarterback. Nonetheless, both QBs had a long list of pursuers as colleges and universities across the nation came calling with recruitment letters. Matt Stafford chose to move to the SEC with the Georgia Bulldogs, while Jevan decided to stay closer to home and play for the Texas Longhorns, a move the young QB would soon regret. He chose UT the year after their historic season when they brought home the national championship. Throughout the 2005 season, then Texas QB Vince Young indicated that he planned to return for his senior year, which would have given Snead time to adjust and transition to become his replacement. But instead, Young joined the NFL, and Colt McCoy, who had already been with the Longhorns, won the starting quarterback position during the summer. And once again, Snead would come up just short and was relegated to the sidelines where he could only watch from a distance. Seeing that he could potentially sit 4 years behind the newly appointed McCoy, Jevan opted to move on from Texas, where he joined Ed Orgeron's Mississippi program. They were in need of a quarterback, and Snead was looking for a new place to call home, so it was a perfect match. The former Texas QB also fell in love with the campus and settled in seamlessly. Due to NCAA transfer rules, the quarterback had to sit out the 2007 season, but then had 3 years of eligibility remaining. In 2008, at Mississippi, Snead saw the chance to finally be recognized as the main guy and rise up from the shadows. Under new head coach Houston Nutt, there were a lot of question marks surrounding this team, who finished 3-9 the season before. Nonetheless, Jevan took advantage of the opportunity he received and never looked back. Jevan Snead had a breakout campaign, leading Ole Miss with a 9-4 record and a win over Texas Tech in the Cotton Bowl. The QB finished the season throwing for over 2,700 yards and 26 TDs and snatched key road wins against Florida and LSU. His exploits in the 2008 season made him much of the talk in Mississippi. Entering the 2009 campaign, many of the leading draft experts had him and his Rebels teammate Greg Hardy as projected first-round picks. CBSSports.com Pete Prisco even projected Snead as the number 1 overall pick for the 2010 NFL Draft. Jevan Snead was finally getting the recognition that eluded him in the past. His photo appeared on the cover of the August 17, 2009 issue of Sports Illustrated with the headline, "The Rebels have the firepower to shake up the BCS." So the Mississippi QB was on cloud 9. Things were going his way as he looked to have a fast track to the NFL. Analysts were praising him and fans adored him. Then all of a sudden, the music stopped. After an early upset to the Gamecocks, things quickly went sour for Jevan Snead. His play on the field became rather inconsistent, with the quarterback losing his composure and competitiveness. The Rebels had stagnated, and Snead's stock began to drop in his junior season. And instead of challenging Florida's Tim Tebow for honor of top SEC quarterback, Snead ended up taking a backseat to Ryan Mallett as he became the new hotshot young quarterback with an arm. Ole Miss finished the 2009 campaign with another 9-4 record as questions rose about Jevan Snead's decision-making and pocket awareness. In the final game of the season in the Cotton Bowl versus Oklahoma State, the QB completed 13 of 23 passes for 168 yards with 3 interceptions. However, on one of those picks in the 13th minute of the second quarter, Jevan would suffer a blow that would have a profound impact on him in the future. From the pocket, the quarterback threw a pass that bounced off the hands of receiver Shea Hodge and straight into the hands of the safety, who proceeded to return the ball. And as Snead ran towards the safety, another Oklahoma State player, Markel Martin, struck the QB head-on as he closed in for a tackle. However, the helmet-to-helmet hit Jevan suffered caused him to sit out, and he did not return until the fourth quarter. This was over 10 years ago, and we did not know what we know today about concussions. If this were to happen today, there would be no chance of the QB coming back into the game. Anyways, if you watch the replays of this hit, you can see the impact his head makes with the field. Everything seemed fine as he got up shortly, but family members who were in attendance that day recall being terrified from the stands. His sister Jenna would go on to say, "You could see his eyes roll into the back of his head, and he was out for what seemed like forever to us." Honestly, this had to be a horrific moment for anyone who knew Jevan Snead. Watching a loved one take a hit like that can be really traumatic. I'm sure the image of seeing a family member lying helplessly on the ground and then watching the replays on the Jumbotron to the background noise of fan reaction has to be a moment you'd want to forget. But too often in the game of football, these hits unfortunately happen and are part of the game. Coming off that season, the Ole Miss quarterback elected to try his luck and entered in the 2010 NFL Draft. Snead wanted to take the next step in his football career, but that meant he would have to start off from a position further back from a year ago. While he was a projected first-round pick 12 months earlier, this time around, Jevan's projection slid all the way to the 5th round as he entered the NFL Combine. Yet the quarterback still had high hopes he could impress teams during the Combine and maybe even move into the top 5 at the position. After Sam Bradford and Tim Tebow were selected in the first round and fellow Longhorn Colt McCoy taken in the third, each round passed by as teams overlooked Jevan Snead. And in the end, the Texas native went undrafted as all 32 teams passed him up. Eventually, he would sign with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after the draft, but was cut to make room for players returning from injury. Disappointed with how things went, Jevan settled on Arena League football in January 2011, but was released before the season kicked off after the coach who recruited him was fired. This had to hit him hard mentally. This was a game he loved and grew up playing, but now Jevan was facing the harsh reality that football may not be in his life anymore. That's when he tried to make the transition away from football life like those before him who had to move on from the game. This led to Snead to work jobs in real estate, land development, medical sales as he tried to find a new life away from the football field. During this time, as he tried to lead a normal life, friends and family members would begin to witness something troubling with Jevan. they would notice that he would too often forget things that were uncharacteristic of a man in his 30s. He would forget about past events in his life, milestones, football games, and this really began to worry his sister Jenna. Slowly, things got worse to the point where he needed sticky notes to help him through the day, and eventually his mood started to become erratic. Add on top of that the periodic bouts of depression, and things continue to worsen. Then on September 21st, 2019, Jevan Snead was supposed to pick up a friend at the airport but never showed up. This concerned many friends as they knew something was way off, so they called the police. And when law enforcement arrived at Snead's apartment, they found him in the bathroom with a belt around his neck. It doesn't take a genius to understand that the main cause of Jevan's actions were most likely the result of chronic traumatic encephalopathy, also known as CTE. Upon his wishes, the Snead family donated Jevan's brain to the Boston Center for Research to examine the level of damage his brain had endured during his career. CTE can only be diagnosed after a person's death and is generally found in athletes with repeat head trauma. That being said, Jevan Snead's life